we're back again, boys. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing all right tonight? Y'all doing all right? Y'all doing okay?
Everybody all right tonight? Y'all had any vodka and orange juice?
Crew Summer Slashback. I'd like to send a special thanks out to our boys, Chris and the Critters, that put that song together. It's killer.
Chris and the Critters.
It ain't Metallica, but it's good enough for me. I think the vocals, Chris's vocals, sound just as good as James Hetfield, if not better.
Hell yeah, boys.
So,
it is kind of Metallica light. But then again, Metallica's been Metallica light for the past 25 years.
Sure have.
Let's go get a fucking steel drum and beat on it for a whole album.
I got an idea. Let's get somebody to film a documentary about us being a bunch of bitches.
Oh, he didn't tell me. Look here.
I'm done for today. Fuck you, and fuck you.
God, that damn thing. I remember me and you watched that together. We were both just kind of like mystified by how shitty it all was.
Yeah. I was like, these guys need to go away for a while.
They kind of did.
Yeah, I think it helped them a little bit, and they quit filming everything that they did. That helped them too. But all slashers all summer long with the Crew Summer Slashback. And tonight's show, we've got a couple of vastly different slashers, different eras of the 80s. And they both have interesting stories behind them. That's one of the links. They both are, of course, from the 80s and set, I guess, sort of in the summertime, right? Spring and summer.
They're both in the summer, basically.
Right. And they're both movies that we had never reviewed before together here on DEADPIT. So that's the criteria for these slasher movies. If somebody is requesting us review The Burning, fuck no, we already talked about that. We talked about that, right, Uncle Bill?
We did, yeah. I don't ever want to hear about The Burning again, to be honest. There's a bunch of movies I don't ever want to hear about again, but that's definitely high up on my list.
Right. So we'd like to welcome everybody, though. We got a couple of slashers to talk about tonight. 1 hour of maniacal fury for the final show of June for DEADPIT. Can you believe July is already upon us, Uncle Bill?
Yeah. Tomorrow, by the way, just while we're talking about July, is the 1st of July, which is the Vinegar Syndrome drop. So that's the subscriber week sale too, which is coming up. Everybody already knows what one of the titles is, what the VSA title is, because they fucking showed enough of it to where people...
It's Macho Fart Hammer or something like that. What was the name of it?
I don't know. I'd never even heard of it. I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's some trauma movie that's like, macho women go to hell. Like that.
I'm just going to call it Macho Fart Hammer. Yeah.
Macho Fart
Let's
Hammer.
call it that.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there's a fart hammer here. Yeah, there's not.
Mean Gene Okerlund. I can't believe it that the Macho Fart Hammer's going to 4K. Yeah.
Killer wrestler. Macho Fart Hammer. Yeah, Macho Fart Hammer. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
The crop.
Macho Fart Hammer. Funky like a monkey. Uncle Bill, what's the movies we're talking about tonight? What's the first one?
The first one will be Graduation Day, which was also a Trauma picked up film. It was not done by Trauma, though. However, Trauma did pick it up. And
that's why nobody paid attention to it for like 20 years or whatever it was.
That's factually true, yeah.
And another one that not many people know about, only had a very brief big cartel release from Code Red DVD on Blu-ray disc. Twisted Nightmare from 1987. So, yeah, I mean, these are both movies that I don't think we've ever talked about in any form. Cleve Hall is the only known actor, or I guess he's mainly known for his makeup effects and stuff. But he's the only known person in Twisted Nightmare at all. It has a bunch of jabronis. Has a Philip Ree lookalike in it. We'll talk about all that here in a little bit.
But I wanted like Bolo Young, how jacked up he was and everything. I was like, good Lord.
Yeah. Maybe a combination of Philip Ree and Bolo Young. We've got Wes Ray in the house, Adam, the mayor, Antonis, Andriotis, Foz Rotten, Malcolm Jamal Warner is in here, boys.
Wow.
Theo Huxtable.
With the pudding and the pops and what out of prison and the sweaters.
Vanderhoff 666, Ken Carlson, the blackest Peter the world has ever known, Justin Smith, Witch Hunter, Gizmo, Brandon S., Scratch Bueno, Matthew Hara, Fight the Good Fight. Yeah, so we got plenty of people here. Lawn Furniture, the Boba Fett's.
Wouldn't Fight the Good Fight a Triumph song or an album?
That sounds like that would be a good name for one if it's not already. Thomas or Thanos. I can't pronounce your last name, but welcome, sir. Welcome. Why don't you try to pronounce that, Uncle Bill?
That is Hezidi Mitru. Hezidi Mitrio. There we go. Thanos Hezidi Mitrio.
And he wants to fire Biden.
Who the fuck's talking about Biden?
It was in his ECs.
Oh, fire Biden. Bulls. I'm not even getting into it. I don't even
Brainer 951, Crater. Yeah, it was called Monster Man, and it was on like the Sci-Fi Channel or something like that. Cleve Hall passed away a few years ago. I was looking that up. I didn't know that.
Yep. Unfortunately, we lost old Cleaver.
Did a lot of special makeup effects in mainstream movies and everything. And the performance in Twisted Nightmare, we're going to hype it up for you guys and let you guys know a little bit later. But tonight, we're going to kick things off. We're going to get right into it because these are didn't Bill O'Reilly say pithy shows? Right? We're not going to drag on and on and on here because these are hour long. That's what we're trying to make them.
I don't think we can drag on and on about Twisted Nightmare, really. Like
I can talk about it all day.
Well, we do it in chronological order, right? So graduation day is first.
We got to hype up Twisted Nightmare's coming a little later, brother. Yeah.
God, that sounds like an awful fucking not even it sounds like an indie pay-per-view or something that would come out.
Twisted Nightmare's the Lost Dio song.
Yeah. Twisted Nightmare. When you're down in the dungeons of hell.
There you go.
Some lyric like that.
That'll be on the Lost Records of Dio.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to kick it off.
1981's graduation day was, I believe, a money project by a guy by the name of Herb Freed, who basically financed it in like a very unusual way, which is that he took it to theaters and said, "Hey, if you help us pay for this, like we'll let you, run it here for a period of time and whatnot." And he was able to pick up a lot of the money to finance the film that way. It is definitely a slasher film and definitely an unusual concept. I think a lot of people said that Fatal Games reminded them of this movie. It didn't really remind me of it, other than the fact of like it being like there
gymnastics
being
and
in the movie,
Olympic sports and running and jumping and. Is there a javelin in this? I don't know. They do the high jump.
I don't remember the javelin in this one. They do like, they do the gymnastics and the rings and that kind of thing. And
it's definitely starts off in similar fashion. The Fatal Games came out like 3 years later.
Yeah, the opening montage is almost identical to Fatal Games, including probably a even better song that sets up the montage than the one that was in Fatal Games.
Right. And we got the song ready here, right? You want to listen to it again, Uncle Bill? You've got it stuck in your head already. That's funky like a monkey, baby. Listen.
You got to get yourself ready for the chorus.
You can picture this, yeah. I can see Christopher George.
Yep.
We're going to crank it, buddy, when he gets the chorus. That's the...
Ready.
Everybody wants to be the winner. The winner wants to be the winner. Now everybody wants to be the winner. Wants to be the winner. Now everybody.
You're welcome, Vinegar Syndrome. We've just sold a shit ton of those Blu-ray discs just based on that. That's fucking catchy shit, boys. That's just a funky song. That's funky like a monkey.
Yeah, that's basically the first like 10 minutes of the movie is just watching a bunch of people like in a montage of sports and that song playing over top of it, which is great. And then like, you know, the movie actually starts to roll. And the premise of the movie is to a lot of people remember Christopher George from he was in Revenge of the Ninja. He's the one that has like the ridiculous fucking death scene in that movie. And he's been in like, think of any like Italian or, you know, Asian film you can think of. And he's probably worked in it as an American, but like he's the coach. So the Laura character wins the big race for the coach, but then collapses on the track and dies. And it's a truly sad.
Right. She has like did they say she had a brain aneurysm or something? Or
something
what?
like that. Yeah, I can't remember.
And Christopher George, and he's pushed her too hard. And now we fast forward, what was it? A couple months later, we're fast forwarding to the weekend of graduation, leading in to graduation day, right?
Right.
And they have the entire team lined up in a team photo. And there's some deranged maniac out there, one by one, scratching them off and killing them one by one, mysteriously and violently. And what's the gimmick with the killer in this one, Uncle Bill?
I actually think this is a pretty good gimmick, but the gimmick of the killer in this one is that he has a stopwatch. He and or she has a stopwatch that is 30 seconds, and they time the amount that it like takes to kill the person. It's always got to be, you know, within like the 30-second rule, because she won that race. Laura won that race in 30 seconds. So that's what
they got to have a good gimmick going, right? Well, now you got to keep in mind the time frame of this too. So this was 81. How many like hugely successful slasher movies were there at this point? Like, you know, the ones that are the blueprints. So there were two big ones to me in this one that I got, and that was Prom Night and Friday the 13th. So it's kind of a
100% Prom Night. Yeah. Like that opening is basically like the ending, you know, in terms of the music and everything, and like kind of the feel of the movie as well, with it being shot like all around this high school, is Prom Night. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's heavily inspired. Now, there's some interesting things about Graduation Day as well. Vanna White is very briefly in, if you blink, you'll miss her in Graduation Day. She is in it, and like this has been like almost of, you know, something of legend for years, because people have talked about this, that she is in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And she's, as far as acting roles go, she was only in like
2 movies, I think.
Yeah.
2 or 3 movies.
And this was before the Wheel of Fortune, and she was on a bunch of game shows, I think, in the early days. But yeah, she is briefly in it. Again, unless you're really looking for her, you're probably not going to, you know, so you just have to freeze frame the shot or look it up online.
She's literally in it for like 3 seconds. Yeah. I mean, you can see it, but I mean, there's no real point in it. And, you know, as the film goes on, you've got like, there's a whole cast of people that have different kind of like specialties or whatever. Like one of them's a gymnast, one of them's the pole vaulter, one of them's like the runner, the long distance runner. And they all like die in ways kind of based around like their their event or whatever, and some of them just got get chased down. They did actually, Herb Free did actually get real gymnasts too, anyway, for this movie, and that was the girl, I can't remember her name, that does the gymnastics routine, which you can clearly tell she knows what the hell she was doing. She was actually either she was going to be in the Olympics or she was training for the Olympics at that time. That's why they cast her. And then the guy who's the pole vaulter was actually like a college level division pole vaulter. So I mean, they tried to make it look semi-realistic anyway.
And then, of course, Christopher George he's the asshole coach in this that pushes the student athletes too far. He goes too far with them, right? And they do this is kind of a common thing, I think, in the early 80s slasher movies too. The red herrings, they go overboard with it.
It's all over this movie. Yeah, at one point in time or another, they put 3 people up at least as being the killer. They heavily hint at 3 of them. And one of the funniest parts about this movie, and there's a bunch of funny parts about this movie, but I don't know if you noticed this or not, but there is her sister, Laura's sister, comes back into the picture. She's in the military somehow or another, and she comes back into the picture and shows up at the very beginning of the movie, right after the first scene. And then she's I don't know what the fuck she's doing, investigating or something. I don't know. But she disappears for the entire movie.
Right. Well, and they want you to believe that it's her. That's another one which I guess we shouldn't give it away, but I mean, it is 40 plus year old movie at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, there's no way in hell you can believe it's her because it's just way too obvious because they comes in and it just disappears for 90% of the movie.
They make the mistake of showing the killer. He's got the skin tight.
Yeah.
And you can tell who it is. If you know the cast of the movie, it's not hard to figure out who the killer is in this. So that's kind of hilarious as well. Now, another thing that I noticed, I was going to try to get his name here. The principal in this, I don't know if you noticed this or not.
Yeah.
Michael Pataki, who would later be the sheriff in Halloween. I think it was Halloween 4. He's the one that we always made fun of his deep voice. No, he was the doctor, Dr. Hoffman. And we would make fun of his deep ass voice. And he's really a comedy character kind of in this one. It aggravated the shit out of me when I saw him. I was like, where in the hell have I seen that guy before? And then I looked it up and he was like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. So yeah, it's Michael Pataki, boys. Pataki.
And I thought that there was actually some really, really cool death scenes in this movie, though. There's a fencing scene where one of the characters gets a fencing sword stuck through their neck, and the way they did it, it blows out the back of their neck and blood's squirting all over the back of it. And then the other really memorable one is the guy that's a pole vaulter jumps into a big bed of spikes that the killer is laid down.
I think that they could have went a little bit further with that though.
It looked pretty good though for
it did
1980, 81. So
it did look good, but you didn't really get to see the point of impact. They could have got a dummy or something, and that would have been really cool.
Throw a dummy on that.
That would have been awesome. That would have been great.
But there's another thing in the movie too that is hilarious, and they never explain it. But then I was doing research and kind of come to find out so there's a character in the film. Her name is Dolores. And you see her at the beginning of the film, and she's just a random blonde character that's part of the, the team or whatever. And she's played by an actress who I don't know who it is. But about midway through the film, all of a sudden Linnea Quigley just fucking shows up. And she's playing the same role. And they don't ever mention it. They don't reference it. They don't say anything about it.
Yeah, I didn't even really realize it, to be honest with you.
And then immediately, Linnea Quigley gets naked. That's the first thing she does within 30 seconds of coming on this movie. So she comes in and she automatically just takes her top off and starts making out with somebody. It's and she's naked almost through the entire film.
That's what they hide her for, baby. They want to feel her good. If you
well, here's the story too behind this. So that girl, the other actress that played Dolores, and somebody can look her up on IMDb because nobody's ever heard of her, but she was such a pain in the ass and like was causing so much trouble on the set that they just replaced her midway in the film, but they'd already shot like a bunch of her scenes, and she's in the picture, by the way, that like where they're crossing off, like, you know, the killer's crossing off people that he's killed. And like, so I guess they couldn't go back and reshoot everything with Linnea Quigley. So they just put her in there and didn't mention it. They just assumed that people would.
I'd say most people didn't pay attention.
Yeah, I don't think that might be the reason why she immediately has her tits out too. They're like, all right, let's just like distract people.
Yeah, people are like, who cares? Let's just enjoy this. And yeah, this is a very, very early role for Linnea Quigley as well. So this was 81. Did she have anything before this? Like of note, at least? I'm not sure. Probably look that up, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. She had a bunch of films like around the same time that she did. It's like she came onto the scene and then like did a bunch of stuff right around the same time. So this may be her first film. I don't know.
Well, I mean, as far as like legit, like people don't realize this, and this, I don't know if this is really, you know, that's top secret information or whatever, but Linnea Quigley did adult movies before under a different name, which that was before this. I think that was like in probably the late 70s. But as far as like legit, you know, film stuff, I'm gonna look it up, boys. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
But always great to see her, man. And yeah, she was very young in this. This is before she got her new boobies.
While you're looking that up too, what did you think about the house band Felony in this?
Well, man, they definitely use them quite a bit.
It's like, yeah, there are 3 songs.
They play like almost an entire set taking up how long was this movie? Like 90 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, it's dead center in the middle of the movie when they're all at like this dance. And they're just like, they play like a whole half set, like you were saying.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I wrote that down. I was like, well, hell, they're letting him play like a whole fucking concert or something in this movie. So the Herb Fried must have been a big fan of those guys. But I'm looking her up though. So, I mean, she does have roles back in the late 70s. I think her first role was a barmaid in Psycho from Texas. She was, you know, not really lead character. She's listed as a mannequin in Tourist Trap. I had no idea about that. Don't Go Near the Park. Now, that's one I think we've seen. That was in 79.
Yeah.
She did a movie called Summer Camp and Stone Cold Dead in 79. But yeah, I mean, this is as far as like a big, you know, not really a central character, but a decent sized role. This may be one of the early ones. Well, it's definitely one of the early ones, but yeah, maybe her first big role.
So Felony was pretty good. I'll give him, I was going to say that too. They turned up in some other soundtracks too, but I can't remember what they were. They actually played in other, I think it was horror films. Like, I cannot remember what the films were, but, they had a pretty good set, even though it's pretty clear that they're not playing in the whole set. There's like times when they're showing the song, like playing, and then like the drummer's not even like playing anything. He's just sitting there like waiting, and they'll show that like mixed with like the song going. So it wasn't really great, like editing job or anything, but I guess it's not
right
the point.
I mean, it's for what it is. I mean, it's a fun movie. And I was talking to Sarah about this too, because she was like, oh God, the formula of the early 80s slashers, there's very, very few that I don't like. Just I think part of it is the look of the girls, the fashion and everything. The budget on a lot of these movies are very much the same. They all have that goofy of the air late 70s, early 80s music. They all like visually look the same kind of. I mean, I think you could edit Prom Night and this movie together and just make some totally incoherent movie, but like visually it looks like the same damn movie.
That's true. I mean, there was a formula, and that formula like was basically have like a kill every so many minutes, have like a mystery around who the killer is going to be, have gore effects, practical effects, and a bunch of people being nude. And that was the basic formula.
The Witch Hunter said that they had a song for Friday the 13th, Part 6.
Yeah. I knew they were in something else like that.
New Year's Evil's solid, Jackson, real quick. I mean, I like it. I mean, it's not the best movie ever, but I enjoy it. But yeah, that will not be one that we'll be covering because that was on New Year's, right?
True.
Not in the summertime.
Yeah.
But Herb Freed, was this his only slasher movie?
Yeah, it was his only horror film because there's a story about that where he went to the theater to see this film premiere in one of the theaters, and like he was really taken aback by the audience laughing at the death scenes. And he said after that, like he would never do another horror film, and he never did. He only did like I think action films and some other crap. I'm trying to think of what it was. I can look it up real quick, but
Old Herb.
yeah. So after that, he does Tomboy, Survival Game, Sticking Together, Dead Punks, and Paradise Lost, which none are horror films.
And he's still only pretty much known for Graduation Day. So
yeah,
thank you, Herb.
Although Tomboy is the one that has Betsy Russell that we talked about. We talked about that movie not long ago.
Heaven's the best, baby. Heaven's the best. Graduation Day, though, if you're a fan of like we were saying, like Prom Night, very much like Prom Night, heavily inspired by Friday the 13th, the original as well, which I think all these movies were. It's interesting to look, and maybe we can have a separate show on that. The theatrical releases after Friday the 13th came out. So after, what was it, May in 1980 or whenever the hell it was?
Yeah.
And see how quickly these things started just boom, boom, boom,
like crazy,
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a ton. 81, 82, 83, there was a ton of those slasher, Friday the 13th ripoffs.
I really do, like, I don't know why, but I really think it's my favorite just genre of like horror films. And I don't know why, like everybody complains about it and stuff, but like to just put something on and like have a good time, I don't think there's a better genre than slasher films.
Let me ask the chat this too while we're still on this movie. And I've always been confused. Is it just too big of a task for somebody to take on? How come we don't have a slasher like encyclopedia or a slasher?
I'll bet they do.
You know what I'm saying? Like a, even if it's just for the 80s slasher movies, like just one book that has, I mean, it would probably be impossible to have all of them, but as many as possible, A to Z, and brief reviews on those. Like let us know in the chat, because to me, I would be interested in that, because there's always, and there's going to be some movies this summer that we're going to be looking at that have never been released on DVD before. Like I want to make sure that we do at least a couple. And there's always some that people don't know. Like the next one we're going to talk about here in a minute, Twisted Nightmare. A lot of people don't know what that is. Very limited release on VHS and even more limited release on Blu-ray.
Everybody's trying to figure out what Linnea Quigley's porn name is.
There's multiple ones, but I don't know if any of them are real. And there's pictures of some of the porn that she did, but I've never seen any video. So if anybody,
isn't there one with Brink Stevens too?
There is a lesbian love scene with Brink Stevens and Linnea Quigley. There's a photo of that, and I've seen it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh. So, anything else that you want to say about Graduation Day that's notable?
Christopher George is great. He's a great asshole. Like they had him try to be like almost like a hero in City of the Living Dead, and it didn't work as good. Like I love City of the Living Dead. It's one of my favorite Fulci for sure, but he's a better prick or asshole or whatever character, I think. And Lene is always good. It's hilarious how much of a slut she is in this movie. I don't know how much acting was involved in her to do that, but yeah, I don't know. I like the movie a lot. It's definitely heavily inspired by Prom Nights, noticeably inspired by Friday the 13th as well. But if you are a fan of those early 80s Friday the 13th, almost spin-off slasher movies, Graduation Day is one of those. Guaranteed that you'll like it. Now, Wes Ray mentioned, and I don't know if, how much truth is behind this, that Clint Howard is working on a sequel to this movie. Graduation Day 2, the next year.
I mean, I could totally see that being the case, but like, it ain't gonna be no good.
It's like there was a Cheerleader Camp 2 sequel as well that looked like it was shot on like a fucking camcorder.
And I guarantee that's what it'll be like for this too. Like, they can't make anything like that now and make it look halfway decent for some reason.
Yeah. So that is Graduation Day from 1981. Vinegar Syndrome has that out on Blu-ray. It's actually one of their earlier releases that you can get it. Next time they have one of their big sales, you should be able to get it for like $13 or $14 on Blu-ray, which it looks great too, because that was one of those movies, like Uncle Bill was saying earlier, Trauma released and had it out on DVD, but it looked like shit. It was like full frame. It looked like it was directly sourced from a VHS tape. Vinegar Syndrome's got it cleaned up well and everything. And
I was amazed though, because like with, Vinegar, it's not like the greatest. If you watch it, it's not the greatest transfer you've ever seen, right? But you've got to look at like what the curve is. Cause like when you look at what the source material is for the shit that they've done, like try to watch it on like Tubi or something like that, or try to watch it like on a DVD that Trauma put out or something. Man, it's crazy that they were able to even do what there's a lot of that stuff you can't even see it. Mm-hmm. Another good example of that is Twisted Nightmare. Like if you try to watch that, like on the versions of that before Code Red put out the Blu-ray and stuff, you can't even see what the hell's going on at all.
Yeah.
Like, so I can imagine people would hate that movie because you don't even know what's happening. Like half the time in it.
It's tough. I mean, for a lot of these, and there's still so many that has never even received a good DVD release. It's kind of bizarre, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I did want to let everybody know that if you head over to the YouTube page, I do have that poll up again where you guys are picking between which slasher film we're talking about tonight is the better movie. We've got 59 votes so far, and Graduation Day is winning by a fucking long shot. 90% of the vote.
I kind of I agree with that after watching both, because Graduation Day is like in the classic era too of slasher films. And I've got it on right now, by the way, and it's the scene where Linnea quickly just comes in, pulls her shirt off, and starts just like, motorboat in the sky. No shit, that's what she's doing now. But like, it's in that classic kind of era where you had like the those kind of stars and stuff, and that it just follows this formula that's like really, really well known, and like people would have nostalgia for it, I think. And a lot of times the practical makeup effects were better than the later like slasher films that would come along. But that being said, though, you probably won't believe this, but I actually did not mind Twisted Nightmare. I thought that, when we get into Twisted Nightmare, that actually has some good kills in it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it here in just a second for sure. This is the second one of the show this week, and it was definitely a different kind of slasher movie compared to Graduation Day, different time period in the 80s. Now, this is one of those movies that was so kind of obscure for so long that people didn't know, because it's shot on the same set as Friday the 13th Part 3. The house and the barn is the same from those two movies. So people assumed, for a couple of different reasons, that this movie was shot for like 5 years before it was released. So it was shot in 82, released in 87. There's interviews on the Blu-ray that it was shot a couple of years before it was released. But yeah, I think it was shot in like 85. They sat on it for a couple of years. Very low budget release, really. But it's I mean, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'd never seen it before. This is one that I'd gotten that Blu-ray a couple of years ago, which is kind of rare now. I think it's out of print. It's one of the big cartel releases. So you're going to pay like 40 or 50 bucks for it at this point. But I'm sure somebody will re-release it. But before that Blu-ray release, that was one of those VHS tapes that was going for gigantic amount of money just because small regional release, and not many people had seen it. There is an upload of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
If any of you guys want to check it out.
Ass too, by the way. If you try to watch it that way, you're screwed. It was released on VHS in 1989 and wasn't released again on Blu-ray until 2017. So like, I mean, that gives you an idea of how long that movie had like the world's shittiest release on VHS. But also, and this blows my mind looking at this, man, this movie was released theatrically in New York and Los Angeles, at least.
I bet that went over good.
I'm just trying to picture this movie playing in a theater, man. It doesn't look like it ever would have, but it did.
So we're going to go ahead and get started with the review, though. This one opens up. There is like some sort of pre-credit speech about evil still lives here or something like that. And then it gets into the credits, which lasts forever. And the whole plot is like, I guess it's kind of like, which movie had this? Was it April Fool's Day that had this plot where they all got invited to this? It's called Camp Paradise. It's a child summer camp that's been since shut down, right?
Yeah,
and they have
invitations. Yeah,
they have won a trip there for the weekend, and it's like a fucking ton of teenagers. What, 15 to 20 people probably that are invited to this damn cabin.
Yeah, and
the lead in it, what was her name in it? Laura or something like that. She looks just like Catherine Monroe.
Yeah, Laura was her name in the film.
Laura. And her and a bunch of her friends staying there for the weekend. Very simple plot. And then they start getting off. And not long into the movie, they kind of tell a little bit of backstory on who possibly the killer could be. Laura's brother, Matthew, which is played by Cleve Hall in like a very brief scene, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, everybody was nice to him. Nobody was picking on him. They was offering to give him pussy, and he just didn't appreciate it.
No, he didn't like that. And he's like, y'all bad. And then he ran off into the barn and caught himself on fire for some reason. I can't figure out why.
Just instantly caught himself on fire.
Yeah.
And this scene that's playing right here, the continuity in this movie is pretty hilarious too. Now, this is a low budget movie. So I think one of the actresses in the scene where the girl gets drug out of the truck, did you notice how bad that wig was in that scene?
Man, I noticed a lot of bad things.
Well, you just watched it on YouTube, though, so I don't know how noticeable it was, but it was legit like a costume wig you could get at Big Lots or whatever on Halloween. That's how bad it was.
There's so many great things about this movie, though, that outweigh like the bad things. The bad things being like it has a really generic killer that's just like some sort of like Neanderthal looking old fucker that's kind of like Andrew from Hell Night or something, and just runs around grunting and killing people. But the good is it has a Bolo Young lookalike dude, like I was saying earlier. It has an asshole dude who's one of the worst,
unbelievable asshole.
Yeah, just the biggest douchebag ever. And it has a scene in it where he's like, I forget what somebody says to him. They're like, buddy, like, just calm down or whatever. And he goes, don't you ever call me a pussy. And then he just proceeds to like do the laziest trashing of a room I've ever seen. He just basically like
flip shit upside down.
He lightly like turns something over
God damn you.
Yeah. But like he's all the way through the movie, everything he does, and anytime anybody says anything to him, he's just like, fuck you, piece of shit. Like it's his whole gimmick. He never breaks character. He's just like he's a heel through and through the whole film.
And again, I mean, they shoot stuff in the barn in this. I think that's where Matthew runs to and gets burned up. So the same barn from Friday the 13th Part 3. A lot of Friday the 13th fans will be interested in that. Now, there is a scene with a pitchfork at the end of the movie, which I think is I don't know if it's an homage or what, but it's in the barn, much like at the end of Friday the 13th Part 3. The cast is generic, honestly. Like there's
so many people in this movie.
Yeah.
I forgot that there were certain people that were even there. I mean, you see them for about 2 minutes, then they disappear, and then it goes on to somebody else, and then they get killed. It's like I don't know how many deaths are in this movie, but it seems like at least 10. Like
there's 15 deaths in this movie. Yeah, I looked it up.
Yeah,
15.
I mean, just one after another, like people just getting killed.
There's a death involving the sauna rocks, and this is pre Friday the 13th Part 8.
That was a cool death.
That's kind of interesting.
That's with the head on the rocks, though, not with like going through the
right. Yeah. Right, but I mean, it involves sauna rocks, which I'd never seen in anything prior to this that I know of. And also, there's some scene, I believe, with legit pig guts in this, like intestines and stuff. It looked like it, at least.
Yeah.
Now, Cleve Hall did work on it. I don't know how much work he had done in makeup effects up to this point. I don't think that much. So I think he was pretty much just hired as the killer as Matthew in Twisted Nightmare. Now, something else is very enjoyable in this movie, too, is there's all kinds of nudity in this movie. In particular,
I was going to say that. Like, every person in this movie, every woman in this movie gets nude.
My favorite is the character of Nicole. She is an African-American queen. I can say that, right? Isn't that what they say? God bless America, man. What a set on her. Holy shit. I saw it. I was like,
they almost look like fish hooks. They were
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I watched it. I was like, that's almost something. If you see it in person, you'll start seizing or whatever. I mean, they're amazing. And I was shocked because did I have her name down here? I don't think I did. But like she hadn't done, hardly anybody else in this movie had done anything at all. You know, this is their only movie.
Yeah. I was amazed like at the quality of people that they like, quality of the women that they had in this movie, to be honest, like, because it looks like very low budget, but like every woman in this movie is hotter than hell.
They raided the strip club, brother.
Yeah. They,
the biggest strip club in Hollywood. They raided it, I guess. I don't know.
And you know, the death scenes are kind of generic. Like there's a variation of them that's been done before or whatever, but they have good gore, which is something that like, you know, is unusual in films with this kind of like budget and stuff too. Like you take a look at a movie like Body Count or something like that, movie's fucking just because it's just bullshit because it doesn't have any gore or anything like that really in it. And it's the same type of movie. It's just, this is a much better variation of that.
I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, but you can elaborate on this though, but when you watch a movie like Twisted Nightmare, that's what you want when you get a random slasher movie from Vinegar Syndrome that usually sucks.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
You want something that's got at least some enjoyableness to it, whether it be gore or just hokey, like cheesy 80s goodness or boobs or whatever else. Now, if you're wanting that, this to me, this movie delivers, and you got to think somebody is going to be re-releasing this at some point. Now, this was so obscure, and I don't know if you checked out any of the interviews that Cleve Hall did for this, and he knew kind of a lot about the behind the scenes. The theatrical run that they did with this, which you mentioned a little bit earlier, was what they called a bicycle run, where there were only 12 prints of this film in existence, and they just kind of curated it all over the country that way. And for years and years and years, nobody knew what happened to any of those prints. The source material was all gone, which is why you never got a DVD of it years and years ago or anything. And Code Red had located a print of this, and they played it at the, I think the Alamo Draft House, the New Beverly, or somewhere like that. And that's where they announced that, hey, we got a Blu-ray this coming out for the first time in like 30 years or longer, whatever it was. This thing is hitting home video again. And it's just so obscure that, like, I saw people say in the chat, like, they don't remember it in video stores. Yeah, because, you know, look up the label that carried it. You've probably never heard of them. But yeah, there's a ton of slasher movies like this, I'm guessing, that we still don't know about.
Exactly. Yeah. I know there's like, we always think like we've seen everything and there's always something else. Like, I mean, Vinegar Syndrome is making a huge profit on that fact. They're just raiding through Code Red stuff. Like, and there's hundreds of titles. So, I mean, the fact that Code Red probably found like one of the only decent, you know, existing prints of this film and then fucking made it into something is amazing in itself. That is out of print, but I'll let you in on a secret. Do you want to know a secret? You can buy it on eBay for like 50 or 60 bucks, but Grindhouse Video still has Blu-rays of it for $34 right now. That's cheap as you're gonna find it.
You know, I saw somebody post that, and somebody was talking the other day that, and this is probably true, I guess that's why he's got it, that Grindhouse Video had purchased the remaining copies of Code Red and Scorpion titles.
Guaranteed.
So they may want to check out. Yeah, I mean, $35 is about the cheapest you're going to find it. And who knows?
Oh, I know it is because I was looking today, but like, I'm still not paying $35 for it. I mean, it's going to come back out on something. There's no way Vinegar Syndrome or Severn will put it out.
You holding out for the 4K? Vinegar Syndrome do the 4K.
I'm not saying I'm holding out for a 4K, but I guarantee you that Vinegar Syndrome or Severn's putting this out. Like that's their gimmick right now, is to go back and get all Code Red stuff.
Yeah, and this was one like we were talking about earlier. This was, you know, we did a video with Garrett. It's over on the Born to Be Rad channel if you guys want to check it out on Code Red and the history of Code Red and everything. And we were talking about the big cartel era of Code Red, which Bill Olsen pissed off so many distributors, he had to do stuff himself for a long time there. And Twisted Nightmare, which I guess I should show it while I've got it out here, is one of those movies that was only available on that big cartel site. There is no barcode on this thing. This was never sold online officially or anything on like Amazon.
You notice how much that cover looks like Madman too? I just noticed that.
There's a lot of those Slaughterhouse. Look at the Slaughterhouse cover again. Next time you have it out. There's a bunch of them that ripped that cover off. But Twisted Nightmare, man, is another one that if you're a fan of 80s slashers, check it out. It is on YouTube. If you just want to watch it, you can check it out. And it is completely uncensored. We were talking about titties and gore and everything, and Uncle Bill got to get in on all that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And if this is a movie that sounds like something that you would like, you would probably going to like it. And I know that Graduation Day is beating the fuck out of this movie. But it's mainly because I don't think many people have seen Twisted Nightmare either. Not to say it's better than Graduation Day, but it doesn't deserve a total ass whipping like it's getting, I don't think.
No, it really doesn't, man. Like, I don't understand, you know, why more people aren't behind Twisted Nightmare. I guess it is a little bit like, what's the word? Like simple, like more, it doesn't really have a plot at all.
There's no real like shocking twist ending or anything. It's like, what's funny is you could pretty much predict exactly what's going to happen in it whenever, because it doesn't make sense. Like the lead in it, Laura, and this is how she gets invited, or she didn't get invited, but she gets notified that she won a vacation to this fucking camp. She wakes up from a nap and it's sitting by her bedside. Oh, congratulations.
By the way, what kind of fucking, like, when is that? You went a vacation to a summer camp you went to back in, you imagine
that's deserted.
I'd just throw that fucking shit. If I got like a letter that was like, hey, you want a new trip back to the summer camp you went to when you were a kid? I'd be like, I ain't fucking doing that.
Right. And they're inviting the same group of people that were there when Matthew had his accident.
Yeah.
And it's funny when they had that flashback scene because Matthew just runs to that barn and then he just starts screaming and you see fire in his face. And they don't ever say exactly what the hell happened.
No, you don't. It just exploded basically into flames. And it's just him too. He doesn't catch anything else on fire except himself.
The barn's not on fire or anything. It's just him. He's running out of there. Yeah.
So he spontaneously combusted from anger, I think is what happened.
I mean, is Twisted Nightmare a great movie? No. But I think it's a pretty good, like, if you think you've seen all the slasher movies of that era, it's a pretty good one, I think, to check out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, if you look at like the films that people champion, like the slasher films that people still go on and on and on about, it's as good as those films, man. Like the ones where people are like, oh, this is a little known film that you need to see, and it's something fucking crazy like Body Count or The Burning or something. It's like, yeah, the Twisted Nightmare is as good, if not better, than those films by far.
Yeah. So that one is, if you want to check it out, $35 and just buy it and watch the most pristine version of it you can from Code Red. You can go to our buddy Mike at Grindhouse Video, and $35 is the cheapest you're going to get it. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you can watch it on YouTube for free. Graduation Day is also
you don't want
on YouTube,
to though. You don't want to watch it on YouTube for free because there's only one like stream of it up, and it's horrible. It's like it fucking sucks.
I think it was from a VHS or something, right? That's probably the.
Yeah.
And Graduation Day. Now, is that online? I watched the Blu-ray of it. I think it might be on YouTube.
This is what I watched. I'm sure it is up, but I've got the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray of it. So,
Rush Week. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. Who's to say? We are going to have an announcement here in just a second on what the week 3 is going to be. And somebody was asking us if we're going to have a stream on the 4th of July. I don't think that's going to happen, is it, Uncle Bill?
No, probably not.
We could do a tape delay special of some sort, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, there's other people that are doing streams on the 4th of July that I think will cover that.
Sure. So,
yeah.
For week 3 of the Cruel Summer Slashback, we're going to, let me get it ready here. Cause we just come up with this, at the last minute, what 2 we're going to be talking about. I think you've got the earliest one, Uncle Bill, chronologically. So tell us about it. We'll pop her up here.
In the next series of films that we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the little known, release that came out in 1982, the American slasher film Death Screams.
Ooh. And Daphne Zuniga's asshole tastes like strawberry shortcake balls, especially from 1984. I think it's 84.
Yep.
And this is one we've never talked about, The Initiation, as well. So Cruel Summer Slashback kicking off again should be next week with The Initiation and Death Screams.
The Initiation. It sounds like an Overkill song.
Initiation. I think that was Obliteration. No, what?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't Obliteration. It was something like, what was it?
Obliteration. We need to do that new MWO song. That would be the Obliteration. So we'll check the chat real quick here and we're going to get out of here, but you guys let us know. Hey, any other recommendations for the Cruel Summer Slashback? We're going to try to do it all through summer and see what we can come up with. This is movies that we have never reviewed together before, so that's going to be off the chain. I did want to throw up one here that I started earlier this evening from our good buddy Bug-Eyed Betty, and I just wanted to play the song.
Bug-Eyed Betty, bam-a-lamb, Bug-Eyed Betty, bam-a-lamb. Oh, Betty has some pills, bam-a-lamb. She's looking for some thrills, bam-a-lamb.
Says, hey there, boys. Where's that pretty boy? I want to give him a hot
Spit on that thing.
Isn't that so? That's something like I would get famous for something like that. Like, if I ever got famous, it would be for something fucking embarrassingly.
What's crazy,
yeah.
What's crazy to me about that is it's become like this huge thing where, like, I saw somebody at like a country show did it. Like, was it Lainey Wilson or somebody like that fucking did it? It's like,
can you imagine that?
It's become like, and it's so stupid. And it's only gonna, it's one of those things. It's like a 15 minutes of fame kind of thing. And I don't know, man. I just, the shit people like get behind.
It is kind of sad too, because this is she looked like a very young girl that did that.
Yeah.
And now that she's going to have that stigma on her the rest of her life, like
that's all she'll ever be known for, is that
something that goes that viral. Yeah. I mean, she's never going to live that down because she's still relatively young. She's going to look the same for probably the next 30 plus years at least. But yeah.
What's funny is she's making money on it now. She thinks it's killer, and like hearing about 6 months, nobody will even remember it. Something new will come along, and then she'll be like, "Oh, what you that for the rest of her life? What did that girl was the Hawk 2 girl?
She killed herself, poor girl." She'll have the Hawk 2 podcast coming up here in a couple of months. She'll do a podcast.
McHorror brings up a couple, and I actually brought this one up, and we'll probably do this at some point, I'd say too. Evil Laugh, Offerings, Last Slumber Party. I'll never do Last Slumber Party. Psycho Cop and Deadly Dreams. Offerings is one that I would like to do because I've never really talked about that movie either.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to try to touch on a lot. Hopefully, we've got a few more weeks that we can do this if we're available and everything. And I think Uncle Bill and I both enjoy the slasher genre. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in for this tonight. Now, check out all the previous shows that we did. We just did the one last week so far. Like next week, the Slashback continues, same time, same place. But tomorrow, you got a special show coming up on the midday section.
Yeah, so tomorrow, like we were talking about, is the release of, I don't know, what was it, like 14 partner titles, 4 titles and of their own or something crazy. And then they're doing like the subscriber week thing where you get like, they're discounting a bunch of Blu-rays all through the week as well.
Yeah, that's a daily thing. They're releasing 1 VSA, 1 VSB, 1 VSC, 1 VSD.
Yep. Yeah. 1 VS hepatitis C.
Yeah. That'll be around noon tomorrow. You can check that out. And then like it's 4th of July coming up in the middle of the week. So that's kind of interesting. And we will have more stuff coming up, guys. Stay tuned, and definitely we've had like 120 some people checking these reviews out. And again, I'm going to golf clap you guys because most of the time, we're talking about physical mediables, which we're talking about tomorrow. But to have a crowd to actually talk about the movies, that takes me back there, if only for a day, Uncle Bill.
Well, that's what we always used to do. Remember back in the day, back before everybody like went crazy over that shit? We would just talk about films and people would listen to it.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back there, if only for one day.
Me too. Well, we did for today, and next week we'll do it. So, but we appreciate everybody tuning in and everything. And again, graduation day kicked the mortal fuck out of Twisted Nightmare. What's the final tally on it before we get out of here? I'll refresh it again. And then at the end of the series, we'll do like one big poll on 86% to 14% graduation day with a landslide. And we'll do something with all the winners, maybe. I don't know. Have like a best of or a Tears for Fears ranking show or something.
Everybody's a winner. I think this next one will be closer, though. I think Death Screams and Initiation will be closer than any of the rest of them.
Yeah. Next week, Death Screams, the initiation, early to mid 80s slasher movies, brought to you exclusively on DEADPIT.com. Give us the thumbs up.
Up your butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a fuck.
I want you to. I don't care. Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that now.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. Click that bell.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Dead Pit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows, fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.